Folks, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show. Sicily is 17 miles from the coast of Africa, which is where the origins of rhythm lie. The ancestral heritage of that country bled into the soul of my guest's family, who came to this country to play straight ahead, pulsating melodic invention, syncretic music engrained in New Orleans, supported by the mob and appreciated across the world. My guest is a bone player who came up as an original left coast all-star with Stan Levey, Conte Condoli, Leroy Vinnegarand, Shelly, Manne, Gerald Wilson, and Montgomery. Guys who pioneered blues music in the Army, driving pulsating rhythms into Europe and Asia, and then bringing it back to the States, where clubs like Donte's and the Lighthouse and the Manhole supported the music night in and night out, playing my guest charts and Emil Richards' odd time signatures and Gabe Baltazars' swinging saxophone. My guest was doing it before I was born, playing with his brother, drawing a long lineage back to Mother Africa, where we all descend from. Big bands and small bands still doing it. Michael Barone, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Okay. Nice to be here, Jake.
You know, it's great to talk to you, my friend. Tell me a little bit about the kind of music that that your folks turned you on to, if they were even into music when you were growing up.
My father was a trumpet player, and he played with Bob Crosby and other bands, even on the road when he was 16 years old. He was born in 1906, I think, or 4, something like that. And he went on road. He taught trumpet, and it was mostly Dixieland. I think he was more into Dixieland. Mm-hmm. So it went from there. And then I don't know, when I started to play at 12 years old, I started trumpet when I was about 5, and I couldn't get with it. Then my brother started. Well, really, it was about 5 or 6. And
you just couldn't get with it. You couldn't get with it. That is.
Well, it was. I mean, the mouthpiece was too small or something. I don't remember.
You know, I mean, it's. I would love to get your perspective on this, because you're still breaking in cats today. I was listening back to my interview with Mike Wofford. He was talking about that he had gone. This was going on about a year ago, but he's like, we played a bit of your big band 68, which was re-released on a CD, just a smoking set with another cat I wanted you to talk about. But the thing was, I mean, you're still doing it, so I wonder what you see as the education that you came from, which there was no curriculums, there was no academia, to now a lot of academia, not a lot of experiential learning. I'd love to get your thoughts on how you were educated vis-a-vis the cats you're breaking into.
You know, I keep saying it's all self-initiative. Mm-hmm. You know, I mean, it's if they write any more books about arranging, it's just ridiculous. You know what I mean? It's that's enough, you know what I mean? Yeah. I had a tremendous desire to do this, and I don't even know how I got into this. It's like my father didn't force me to do anything like this. I just got interested in it. My brother started playing the trumpet when he was 7 years old, and he was an immediate whiz. You know, he was just like he picked up the horn, he could play, and frankly, it was competition. I was about a foot taller than he was, and my dad had a trombone there because he had a little music store. My mother and father had a gift shop, and he had a little music place in there. So I picked up a trombone, and I remember I could start immediately. I could play high notes. I thought, oh, this is cool. You know, I know I can play high notes, and that's what got me going. And after that, it was just all self-initiative. I mean, it's just that's why when I hear all these. I want to learn this, I want to learn that. Well, you just got to do it. I mean, I took some lessons in Cleveland from a trombone player, and I started taking lessons in writing that really didn't go anywhere. It was the Schillinger system, which was kind of mathematics, and it was. But my father didn't really know how to advise me. I mean,
right.
He was a talented guy, but he had no education, had no formal education at all. So. You know, and then from that, I went in the Army, because I had to go in the Army for at least 2 years, and I enlisted when I'm to West Point, and I went to audition for the band, and I went to the and I auditioned for the band, and so I went to. I took a 3-year enlistment instead of the regular 2 years, so I didn't have to jump out of airplanes, you know. And
wait, hold on. Did you? Because I have talked to a lot of cats like Menza, John Hurd, other cats. Like, were you able to be in the Army band? And would you have been like, if you had not had the ability to swing, would you have been like a tail gunner in some tank somewhere?
Yeah, but you see, I enlisted for the West Point band, so immediately, as it is, after about a year and a half, so let's just say it ended. but I was always, I had the MO of a musician. So when they transferred me to some place that I didn't want to go, I ended up in another band in Europe, which was the greatest thing that ever happened to me. But basically in the Army, I used my time very well. I worked very hard. I practiced all the time. I was, I wasn't just screwing around doing nothing. And when I was in the West Point band, I was surrounded by a whole bunch of people that were a lot older than me, a lot of master's degrees, and I had no college education at all. So it was very helpful, being around these people. And then when I went to Europe, I got into a smaller band, and they treated me like royalty over there because I came from the West Point band, and then I started my own band over there. Somehow I started writing these arrangements, which I'm pretty poor, but we got it together, and we did a 3 or 4 month road trip with a band with the singers and things like that. And it just turned out good, because I didn't waste my time in the Army. So but self-initiative is really what's. Don't ask me what drove me. I don't know. It just drove me. I just did it.
It's well said. I mean, it is about drive, but I mean, you also, do you feel like you're still growing as a person? Having growth spurts as a human being. Like, I feel like.
Oh yeah.
Since I got connected to your brotherhood, it's just given me a lot of strength to raise my family and go about becoming just a bigger person. And then I look back on someone like you. You've been doing it decade in, decade out, and it's pretty impressive shit. Excuse my language.
I got lost a few times. You know what I mean? It's.
Can you talk about that? Because adversity. Sometimes people, it's good to hear this adversity because.
Well,
Can you talk about Lalo Schifrin at all? Did you collaborate with him?
With Lalo Schifrin?
Lalo Schifrin, yes.
Yeah. No. I worked with him on different things. The first time I worked with him was with Dizzy Gillespie for the 69 or 62 Monterey Jazz Festival.
Oh man!
Yeah, it was something else. It was like I was the most. I was surrounded by all these people and I said, I'm the only person here I never heard of. I ended up sitting next to Brookmeyer and Phil Woods was in the band. Mel Lewis played drums, and Al Porcino and Rights Are Scary. And we did the Monterey thing, and we recorded this thing called The New Continent. And Lalo Schifrin was playing with Dizzy Gillespie's quintet at the time. Mm-hmm. The famous alto player that wrote James Moody. I think it was James Moody.
Absolutely.
And Dizzy. And we recorded this New Continent thing, and then we went to Monterey, and we were the house band for Quincy Jones, plus playing this thing for Dizzy also.
Wow! So, in '62?
So that's right.
In '60?
Yeah, in '62. I got out of the Army when I was 22 years old, and I was I was there when, but 3 years later I was there, and I came to L.A. and I knew nobody.
Wow.
Literally knew nobody. Didn't know about the record business, didn't know about anything. And I went to a city college that somebody in the Army told me, you can go to California, you can go to school for free, which it was at the time. There was I think a $2.50 parking fee for the semester, and it was free. You can go to. So I went to Valley College, and I ended up with a jazz educator, Bob McDonald. I remember all this, who happened to be one of the real good guys and he had a good band, a lot of Bob Florence charts and good professional. And that's really where I learned to write because I played these good arrangements and I could psych them out. I could go and learn from that. Yeah. That's what happened. And for somehow I remember Bob Edmondson, who ended up being in the Tijuana Brass. He was a very good jazz lead player, trombone player. He got me in the Al Porcino brass section, I used to call it, because Bob was in this. Being that people would ask Al to get a brass section,
sure.
So he'd get the brass section. I mean, we didn't get rich doing it, but we did a lot of good things, and so I got in that, and then I ended up doing this Monterey thing, which was really something, So anyhow, and after that, I worked with Lalo. As a matter of fact, I did the first Mission Impossible.
You
and
did.
I remember that.
Did you?
Yeah, I did the first one for TV, and I remember distinctly because Dick Nash always played lead trombone. There was only 3 trombones. It was a Desi Lou. And Dick says, "Here, you play this." And it was 5/4. And I thought, "Oh, no, I can't play 5/4. I mean, he wasn't trying to, break my balls or anything. He was just a real gentleman. He just handed me the 5. I said, "Okay," so I played it. So after that, I did some other things with Lalo. And then everything changes. I left town for a while and then come back, and it's not there anymore. Plus, I got away from playing, and so...
Absolutely. I mean, I think we were talking about growth spurts before, but where do you still feel like there are areas that you want to continue to grow in as a human being?
Well, see, I don't think of it in that way. I just the only thing that I'm concerned with is really my band, and my writing's gotten better and better, and I have a weekly rehearsal every week, and it's somewhat of a clinic also because I have a lot of younger people and some older guys, and I learned a lot from it, from doing this. I mean, it's a major pain in the ass at times too, but it's still, it's like tomorrow we rehearse every Tuesday morning at the Union, and I rewrote Avalon, which I wrote I don't know how many years ago, and it was all horrible Tonight Show copying. It was just awful. So I just rewrote this thing, and I had my copyist. Well, that's a whole other thing over there. So I have a copyist, and it takes his time, and it's done beautifully. And then I rewrote this stuff so it sounds better. So we're going to play it tomorrow, and I'm excited about that. It's going to be good for the band and good for me.
No, I mean, the big band circuit is not. How would you compare it to when you were, swinging the band? I wanted to ask you about it. One cat in particular. When did you meet John Gerald?
Well, John Gerald was through Mike Wofford.
Right. Now they came in because when we played that track, it was the most smoky. I forget the label. The CD.
Oh yeah, well the thing about those recordings, I put out another recording. There's 2 of them. I put out the one, the class of '68.
Yeah.
But the one before that, in fact, it's right in front of me here. It's whatever this was, live at Donte's. Yeah.
Exactly.
I remember asking Mike Wofford about drummers because we needed a drummer. I don't remember how I started. And he said John Gerald. I always remember he said, "Well, he's not a burner like Nick." He was kind of apologizing for him, and I said he was talking about Nick Martinez, and so then he came in and he played different. He just didn't play like big band drummers, A friend of mine, 20 years later, said, in your band, he says, I heard the world's worst and the world's best drummer, and it was the same guy after he played with your band for about 3 years.
Holy cow! Who said that?
Don Pystrup, a very knowledgeable guy.
Oh man, that is that's so. Do you agree with him?
Yes, it's true, because when he came in, well, John was like an animal at times, and a big ego, and he also, he would rush at times, too. He would just get out of hand, you know what I mean? And he didn't like to be told anything, so it was like, but
wow.
he he didn't play this, like the Mel Lewis's and the other guys. And I liked that. I wanted it to be different.
That's why Mike. That's why Mike recommended him, right? I mean, because he was definitely.
Well, I guess so. I don't know. I didn't say that when I started. I just it just turned out that way. That's an interesting question. I don't remember exactly when he came there, but I do remember it was through Mike Wofford that he told me about John Guerin.
Did you have a band? Did you ever? I have some late '70s recordings on Palo Alto, like. Real down-home stuff. Like, you guys are really keeping the tradition alive. I thank God for modern medicine, and I'm just happy that you guys are continuing to swing. You mentioned Phil Woods earlier. Did you meet Phil? Have you seen Phil lately?
I've only seen him. Let's see. The last time I saw him was about 15 years ago at Port Townsend. I used to do the summer camp up there, and I saw him, and he sounded great, But I haven't seen him since then,
Right. No, when did you meet Shelly Manne? When you first got to L.A.?
Well, that's another good question.
Well, you said you got to L.A. and you knew nobody, and I was going to say, who was the first cat that you really did get down with down there?
Well, I'll tell you what I used to do. I went to Valley College and did this, and I took a music class there. I mean, a music program, for a year. And somehow I found out about a jam session at a place called the Digger in East L.A.
Mm-hmm.
Which really wasn't the kind of place you want to go at 4 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday night. That's what I used to go, and they had a jam session from 6 a.m. to noon.
Oh, man.
The bars stayed open 24 hours or whatever. I don't know what it was, but anyhow.
Oh, man.
I found out about this, and I used to go down there, and I ended up playing with a good rhythm section, and Joe Gordon, I don't know if you ever heard of him, but he was
the amazing trumpet player. Yeah, trumpet player.
Yeah, right.
Oh, man.
So it was like, he was the trumpet player. He's a good bass player, forget it, Nick Martinez, and Ray Graziano was the alto player. He was...
Oh, my God.
He was a character, too.
These guys you are so in the pocket, man.
Yeah, so I mean, I just walked in there with my horn, and I became like a regular sit-in. I mean, I went there every morning. I'd get up at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Wow.
And drive to East L.A., and we'd play at 6 from... So after that, I don't know how I met Shelly. I don't remember.
But it's
the thing about L.A. in L.A. you start making rehearsal bands at the Union, and you meet people. It goes. I mean, that's what happened. It still works that way now. It's still the same thing. So I don't remember how we did that.
How did you react to how did you incorporate electronic music when it really came into the fold in like the early 70s? Did you have electronic key? Did you have because it's almost like the digital part of music has like become insatiable now, whereas I go back to those times of when it was just acousticity, just the acoustic sound, the upright bass, and then slowly the electronics came in. I'm like, how did Barone handle that?
Well, I wasn't doing that. I mean, I was writing for the Tonight Show, writing for the Grammys, occasionally for some other TV stuff, and I didn't have my own bands at all. I wasn't out working in clubs as a player. That all kind of stopped. I never really liked that anyhow because it's I just didn't like it.
Except that you got up at 4 in the morning and went to that jam session every
Yeah, but that's when I first started out, and then I changed.
No, that's right.
You go on to something else, and it's so that didn't affect me that much. In the '80s, though, when I lived in Colorado, in fact, I just put this out, reissued this album that I did with Ernie Watts here. I got myself a synthesizer and some modules, and I made these tracks, and I got Ernie Watts. He was living in Colorado with me there too, nearby, and we did this album, and we got it put out, and then I did some more tracks, and then it didn't go. So anyhow, I released that one time, and I spent a lot of time on that because I was in the country and I had nothing to do, But the rest of it, I really haven't had to deal with. I just feel somebody said a long time ago, you're better off just to do acoustic jazz and don't try to fit in with all that stuff. And I think that's good advice. I mean, for someone like me.
Absolutely. No. Can you talk about why? Not why necessarily, but when you decided to take a break periodically, or from music, or go into the wilderness in the country, was it because you wanted to wean yourself off of some kind of, like habit, or?
No. Actually, I got sick. I got hepatitis from an unknown source. We don't.
You don't need to go into it. I mean, really.
Anyhow, but I was, and my house. The market was good. The market was very good for my house, so I sold my house at a good profit. And my mother was a problem. She was 80 years old, and she needed a place to live that wasn't in L.A. It's a long story, the whole thing. So we went to Colorado. She got her own place, and I got a place, and I stayed there for 6 years.
And then Ernie just happened to be living there.
Well, Ernie turned me on to this place too. He always said he was going to retire. I said, "You're not going to retire. Ridiculous." Because he wants to play all the time. So anyhow, I went there for 6 years. And then I went to the equivalent of Portland, Oregon, which was Vancouver, Washington, right across the bridge, because my brother was there. So, I was gone from L.A. for 10 years, and then I came back, and when I got to be 60 years old. But even there, I did write stuff for the Tonight Show and hand it in. I'd probably write maybe one chart a month.
I remember talking to Menza. He said that it was really important if you got to LA, that if you put composer on a rental application for an apartment, you had a better chance of getting it than just saying musician. If you wrote arranger or composer, I mean, was it? What was the? I
don't remember that. That's really going. Yeah, go ahead.
No. I mean, what can you say about the cats that? I mean, there's Chuck Berghofer. I mean, there's still cats that are still. It just seems it's like salt of the earth kind of people. I mean, what did you guys? What was it about your generation that was just incredible in your mind, was incredibly special?
Well, the one thing about LA in the early '60s is that it was cheap. First of all, we could survive on nothing practically. I mean, Berghofer started working a lot and got a lot of record dates, and he made a lot of money. I always say I'm the poorest person I know of all the guys. The rest of them were all working like mad. But I mean, I had a 2-bedroom guest house right in North Hollywood, which they call Studio City now, and it would cost me $90 a month.
Oh my God, jeez, that's
you'd probably be $1,500 or even more than that right now. And I drove a Volkswagen that I bought in Germany for cash for $1,140, and we came out here and we lived on nothing. And it was, this is how you survive this whole thing. So I don't remember putting on there a musician or a writer. Yeah, I think I used to say I was an arranger composer. Come to think of it, I think I might have learned that.
How would you, looking back on it? I mean, the writing you did for the Tonight Show, the studio scene. When you look back on it now, I mean, what do you take away from your career there? In terms of writing and sort of the relationships you might or may not have developed in that.
Well, it's all a learning process. I mean, the whole thing's a learning process. I remember when I first started writing, people would call me to do something, and I'd say, okay, I'll do it. Of course, I was writing for cheap. I didn't even know what to charge. But I used to think, why are they asking me to do that? Because I never did that before, but I wouldn't tell them that.
Right.
They say, you want to write for this? And I said, wait a minute. It's okay, sure. And then, so I mean, it's all experience. I mean, everything you do is you learn something from it, good or bad.
Yeah, have you talked to Howard Rumsey at all? I just did an interview with him. It was
really?
It was in '97. But you mean you played in a band there at the Lighthouse for a while?
What I used to do, that's another one I used to do. I mean, I was pretty ballsy. I'd come in here, I'd take my trombone and go down to the Lighthouse and sit in. I'd sit in with Conte, Condoli, and Bob, the tenor player.
Bob Cooper.
Bob Cooper. And they let me play. I'd go down there and sit in with, and Howard was there, and probably Stan Levey, and I don't remember who played piano. And I'd go down a lot and play too.
Sonny Clark on piano. This is unbelievable. You're like you. So
I used to go down there. And
that's ballsy. That is ballsy shit. So and they.
I know it, and the thing is, they let me do it. So I must have been good enough to get by, but I don't.
Did you? You just told a great story because Dick Burke, the drummer.
I know Dick Burke. Yeah.
Yeah, he's left us now. He passed away. And
he did.
He passed
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he passed on, and
when was that?
Earlier this year.
No kidding.
Yeah, but he told me a great story when I interviewed him when he got up. When Miles's band was at Jimbo's Bop City, he was just in high school, and like I think he had the balls to get up on the drum set. Philly Joe Jones took a break, and he started playing. The rest of the guys walked off the stage. So the fact that those guys stayed on the stage while you were playing speaks volumes.
Yeah. That's funny. See, that's too bad about Dick. Yeah, I knew Dick.
Yeah, no, I mean,
I worked with him.
You want to tell a story about Dick how you played with him, how you met him?
I can't remember those kind of things when I first met him.
Or an experience of playing with him. It doesn't have to be the first time you met him.
Oh yeah, in Portland, he had a trio gig. He always got good bass players and piano players, but we used to do for about 3 years or 4 years when Bud Shank had the Port Townsend summer clinic thing over there, which was really great. I went up there and took a couple of years. Then a couple of years I had the big band too.
Mm-hmm.
But this one night I was subbing for Bill Ramsey. I don't know if you know Bill Ramsey, a baritone sax player that played with Basie and other guys. Character of a guy, he's about 85 years old now.
Wow.
And so I played the first set, and I get up there, and the piano player was great. What the hell was his name? That black guy that was, I don't remember.
Dude, don't worry about it, bro. You're doing just fine, buddy.
I get up on the stage, and it was Dick Burke. And the bass player, his sister's the actress. I can't remember his name, but he was like kind of an avant-garde bass player at one time. Although he ended up being able to play time, but he used to play with no time. So I'd heard that he and Dick Burke had really a falling out, a real screaming section of one another. So there they were on the same stage because they were in the clinic thing, and they just assigned them. This is the group that's going to play for this thing over here. And I played with another horn player, I forget who it was. And I thought, oh boy, this is not going to be good at all because Dick Burke is a pretty strong character, and so Dave Friesen. Oh yeah, he's a well-known bass.
No, I know him very. I need to get to Friesen, man. I love that cat, but I feel bad.
So anyhow, these two I had heard that had a big scene, and I thought, oh my God, what am I getting myself into? And Dave Friesen goes over to Dick while he's sitting at the drums, and he says, "Dick, it's really good to see you." And he puts his hand out and shakes his hand. Well, Dick Burke, I think, almost fainted. I saw the look on his face, and he looked so relieved. Wow. And we played 45 minutes at least, and it was 2 or 3 of the best tunes I ever played with anyone. It was just excellent. I always remember that being one of the best musical things I ever did. But just 2 or 3 tunes we played, and it was just burning the whole thing. The piano player is a guy that's
David Friesen. I liked it. I'm stretching your memory. Anyway, so did you ever get a chance? You know, a lot of the cats. I mean, Hamp Hawes. Like, I'm not going to allow Barone to go unnoticed. Like, I mean, you're part of the archives now, and you know, there's a lot of unsung cats on the West Coast, and I just wonder, like, they kind of flew under the radar. And did you get over? Did you spend time on the East Coast ever on tours and get?
No.
Never.
No. Well, that's the first gig I got for it was a week with Cy Zentner, and that was a long time. I went back east again, and the whole trip was canceled. So I had to come back to California, borrow money from my parents, and start all over again.
Mm-hmm.
And within a short period of time, I got a last-minute sub gig for Slide Hyde. I don't know if you know him, Dick Hyde. He got me on Louis Belson did a thing where his wife at the time was Pearl Bailey, and they had a 6-week show, and they had 2 busloads full of people, singers and dancers, and they carried a skeleton band, you know. And I got that, and then we went to Washington and New York, and I forget what else. Was it Boston? Oh, or Philadelphia. So that's the only East Coast stuff I ever did. You know.
Right. You really.
At the time I was here.
You were there in California, so you know. Talk a little bit about the group you're working with now. Who's in the band? Who are some of the who are some of the up and comers?
In my band right now?
Sure, yeah.
Oh, I've got some good players. Lead trumpet is Tony Boncera, one lead trumpet, and then James Blackwell is another lead trumpet player that came from North Texas State, and he's turned into something really good. And Charlie Loper still plays lead trombone. He played in my band in the '60s. And Bob Summers is an old pro also. Yeah,
I know that name.
Yeah, Bob Summers is excellent, but the lead alto player was really a tenor player. I put him on alto. There's a Tom Lure, and he's special. This guy is really special. He's just a marvelous player. And then there's a guy that just walked in from Portland who was a friend of our bass player, named John Armstrong, and he's another one. Boy, he just plays great. I love the way he plays.
What is it about those 2 guys you mentioned that just they have their own sound?
Yeah, I just think that they got their own thing going. I mean, it's John can play modern, but he's kind of a groaner too. He can just groan on the saxophone. He can play. Sounds like an older style, but it's very hip also. And Tom is just, he just is a great jazz player. I mean, he's just a modern player, but he's got great time and pitch, and they're just good.
No, it's really that's
Brian.
Right. And why did you switch that cat from tenor to alto?
I don't remember. Maybe he just subbed one time. This is a merry-go-round of players. I mean, like tomorrow, I got a lot of subs, but it's still going to sound great because I've got a whole stable of players that. So he might have played alto one because I was hung up. I needed an alto player, lead alto player, and I thought he played great. And he had played tenor with the band, so let's see. I'm always telling lead alto players, I want to hear more. I want to hear a ballsy lead alto sound. I don't want to hear any wimpy sounds coming out of lead alto.
Right.
So I don't know how many, a couple of weeks or 3 weeks, a month, he comes in and he's got a bigger sound. And I said, wow. I said, what'd you do? He said, I changed mouthpieces. I said, don't change back. It's great, but it is. And I'm telling you, he just got a great sound. Plus, he plays all the doubles, and he just reach changes. He's just a great player. That's all. And the bass player I have is a young guy, David Trankina. Then I got a guy from Portland now. Never played in a big band before. Sam Hirsch. And his reading wasn't too good, but he swings, and he's come along, and he's growing tremendously. And I get a big kick out of it. I get a big kick out of seeing young players get better and to see them on the gig perform. Performance is different than they all just, they really, the adrenaline starts flowing. And the drummer just kind of fell in there with Charlie Loper. Adam Alisi There's also a very timid, quiet guy. You know, played real light, and I call light and right, as opposed to strong and wrong. You know, there's a lot of drummers that play strong and wrong, and he's growing also. So it's fun, you know. And then there's a whole bunch of subs that come in and come and go, and some weeks it drives you nuts because you can't get the best people you want, and other times it's just, you know, you can't hardly tell the difference when you have the subs in there. So it's, you know, that's how good it is. That's LA though. From what I hear, it's the only place on the planet that has this many musicians. I mean, there's good musicians everywhere, but LA is deep in musicians.
Yeah, and the problem is there's just not as many places that there used to be to play, you know.
Well, yeah, but you see, LA has a thing called the music business, like I always say. You know, if you go to Portland or Washington or, you know, Seattle or these other places, there's no music business. The music of business means you play shows, you go out and road bands. They got all these dead band leader bands, I call them, you know, Ray Conniff and all these different. You say, well, what wants to do that? Well, it's a steady work, and you go to Brazil and blah, blah, and they pay good money. Well, these guys are playing all kinds of shows are happening here, and they're busy. Mm-hmm. I mean, these guys are doing stuff. It's not jazz. There is no jazz. You know, you don't make a living playing jazz, I don't think, anymore.
Yeah, that's right.
Superstar, you know what I mean?
Yeah, you got to be adaptable. No, absolutely. You have to be.
So that's, you know, I mean, Tom Lur's been gone for 6 weeks because of other gigs. He goes back to Wisconsin and he did 2 or 3 weeks with the schools he went to over there, because he's a big star and he's a clinician, and these guys that do teaching, they do all kinds of stuff, you know, so they're surviving, you know, so they can support their habits, jazz.
Can you talk, exactly, support their habit. Can you talk about being, at any point, you know, like I talked about earlier, a low point or where you faced some serious adversity in your career, and the perseverance that you were able to get through it and actually become stronger because of it?
Well, my secret has always been no kids, so I didn't put myself in a financial.
Wow, I'm not going to say you're lucky, but you have no kids.
No, that's not luck. I made up my mind to that when I started.
Right, you know, I mean, that gave you a lot of freedom.
Yes, it's like and I have no regrets about it either.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just, but that's one way of, you know, it's always about money. It's always the whole music thing. It's always about money and survival. So that's you do things that you did. I can't think of any real terrible down times. You know, there's been times that I was collecting unemployment and still working and tap dancing around all that and just barely getting by on my payments, and there's never been any financial security with the whole thing. With me, it's always been the, you know, the income thing. You know, it's the lack of a steady job. I think it's totally against my, you know, who I am. But that's the way it's, you know. But I don't remember any really. It's just when I got sick there for a while. I knew I had to get out of here and go someplace where it was cold.
Really?
That's what I did.
You went somewhere where it was...
Yeah, because when I was burning up, I was but that's, you know, that wasn't that big a deal. I don't think it's like I don't have any real sad stories.
No, that's great. No, I think the idea of knowing that your body was it was too many toxins in your body and you needed to get out, and you did.
It's like what I had was years of just burning up, absolutely, and terrible fatigue and my upset stomach and this, and it's a long story. I don't want to get into all that, but basically, I lived through it. I thought I'd be dead.
Well, that's about as tough as it comes. I mean, you survived. Can you talk? We talked, mentioned him briefly, but your relationship with your brother, Gary Barone.
Well, it's always been good, but he's not around. I haven't seen him for at least 12 years. And I'm not happy about that at all, because I don't think I'm ever going to go to Germany again. I went to Germany several times 40 years ago. And
why is he in Germany?
Why is he in Germany?
Yeah.
He likes it there, that's all. He went over there to do some teaching, and some guitar player in Portland, Oregon, got him a gig at the school, and he went over there for hardly any money, and he liked it, and then it's grown into something better than that, and he teaches at the school, and then he met this younger girl, and ended up having 2 kids. So he's 70, so I'm 77, he'll be 72 now, and he's got kids under 10 years old.
Wow.
So, yeah, right. So, he likes it, that's what can you say? So
yeah, no, I mean, I can relate. I got an 8-year-old and a 2-year-old, but I'm only 36, so it's a little bit...
Yeah.
I mean, no, I mean, it's good for him, I mean, it was just... I didn't know he was over there. But why haven't you guys communicated?
Well, we email, and I call him a couple times a year. That's about it. We don't...
You haven't seen him in 12 years?
No, I haven't seen him, no. Except on Skype, I've seen him.
Oh, okay. Oh, I see. Okay. I'm sorry. I thought you hadn't talked to him or anything in 12 years.
No. I talked to him. No. We kind of, he's on Facebook, too, so I jabber back and forth with him on that, too. So.
Tell me about your upcoming plans for the rest of the year with your band and anything else you got going on.
Well, the thing I just released this album. Like I said, it's this mythical group called Turquoise, which is my birthstone. Isn't that clever? And this is what I did with this thing with Ernie Watts, and it's we just released that, so I'm promoting it on Facebook, and in about a month I'm going to send it to radio and see if somebody will play it. And then the band, we got a gig in Lighthouse, and then hopefully maybe we get a gig with Ken Poston in the fall. I'm not sure about that, but the main thing is getting the money together for the next CD for my band, because we have the music is done. It takes at least a couple of years to get enough charts together, and we have them, but it's the eagle has to fly for that. You know what I mean?
No, absolutely. Yeah, no, I mean that is paramount.
Because I don't want to die with money in the bank. It's my biggest nightmare.
Well,
hello?
Yeah, no,
that was the joke.
I just wanted to ask you about also your the way you look back on your career and the sort of, did you ever get to that point where you resigned to the fact that a lot of your art it's very possible that it will be discovered well after you're gone?
Yeah, but that doesn't bother me. In fact, I never even thought about it like that. It's only since I've gotten older here and I can do some kind of promotion and have my control of my product of making my own CDs, that it's the thing is, it's important for me to archive just about everything I've done. So I'm just digging out things, and if I get them on CDs or get them on so people can hear them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I want you to get a quartet together with John Hurd and a couple of cats and play some music.
Yeah, right.
You played with John on this album though in the late '70s.
Yeah, right. Yeah, well, that was my brother's idea. My brother got some income tax money and decided to do this album, which was kind of wild. So he got Shelly Manne, because he had worked for Shelly Manne. Yeah, but I knew Shelly before that. Anyhow, Shelly was a great personality too. He had a terrific sense of humor. And so it's. Gary said, I said, who's the bass player? We'll get John Hurd, because they play well together. And then they used, what's his name, Theo Saunders, they call him now.
Theo played. That's right. Theo was on piano.
Yeah, well, he used to be called Teddy Saunders at the time, and then we got. We did this recording date. We did it at a studio that was owned by Tom Scott and Hank Sicalo, who was still a friend of mine. They're both friends of mine, and we did that in Santa Monica, and Alex Acuna played percussion too.
Alex, that's right. It was a smoking set. The blues tunes you guys played were just rocking, man. You were rocking on that album.
Yeah, it was just. It's a funny thing. I talked to Shelly after, and it was hard to believe. But he said to me, Mike, that's the best jazz thing I ever did in this town. I couldn't believe he said that to me. I thought, wow, because this guy had done,
How many? That's unbelievable.
I know it is, and I always remember that. And I thought, he didn't have to say that because, Shelly was a very outspoken guy. If he liked you, he liked you. If he didn't like you, he'd just walk away.
Wow, that's really I'm always trying to figure out the leadership styles of these guys, and that to me.
Yeah. No, Shelly was very loose. My brother played with his band with John Gross, and both of them were going through their. Let's just say that they were.
Yeah.
They were pretty far out. Let's put it that way. And Shelly just let him go. I saw one gig one time with John Gross was just unreal. He was such a pain in the ass, and Shelly was just, it was all about the music. As long as they could play, he didn't come down on either one of them.
What was that? Tell me about that, because that's where with your brother, I'm like, I look. Your brother was in a different land at that time. Like he.
Yeah, I know.
And that band was incredible. It was like. Shelly, this percussionist Brian Moffitt. The whole thing was insane. And but then I'm sorry, no, it was John Morell.
Yeah.
And on guitar and Junie Booth on bass, maybe.
I don't remember. When I saw him, I saw him down at the beach one time. And it was a piano, just piano, bass, and drums, and the two horns. Yeah. And I remember John. Who did I just?
John Gross.
John Gross. He took his shoes off to play. He was up there in his bare feet playing. And afterward, he couldn't find his shoes. He's going through all the tables, swearing real loud, screaming real loud. And I thought, oh my God, I can't get away with this. Somebody stole my effing shoes. Man, I always got my shoes.
I love to, Shelly really was like John can be a pain in the ass, but his playing is. Yeah,
it was all about the playing. I never saw him get angry with those guys. He'd like kind of break their balls. One time, when we were rehearsing for that album, we rehearsed at Shelly's house, and my brother was an hour late. He was still drinking at that time, and he comes in with a brown bag. And Shelly, instead of saying, "Hey, you're late," and he'd say, "My brother says, where's the refrigerator?" And Shelly said, "Well, you going to put your drugs in there?" And my brother was pissed off, but that's the way he did. Yeah.
No, it was not all. Most people, they go through these phases, and it's part of what life really. It's just how it all shapes up. But I think that, my show is really attributed to the 4 L's. Leadership, and in the styles of, guys like Stan Kenton and Duke Ellington and Love is another one, and Life, and then Lineage, and I was hoping you could trace the lineage of the music that you've played. I don't even know about. How do you feel about the term jazz? Did you grow up? When did you first hear that word? When do you believe that's the appropriate word for the music?
Yeah, I think so. I didn't question things like that. I remember we used to see we didn't have a television set until I was 17 years old. I remember seeing jazz shows in black and white, with Ella Fitzgerald and Louis Armstrong and Dave Brubeck, and there it was right on television. It was almost like seeing a concert.
Wow.
And that was fairly normal.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know if it was normal in our house anyhow, because I mean this wasn't some obscure station. This was like, you know, a big television station. So I never thought about that. I don't think about that. I'm not that deep. Somebody's going to come along and change the word jazz just because they have nothing to do, you know.
Well, no, I mean, I wonder about the idea of, you know, what it means today, just the way the barriers have gone up in music. Whereas before, even when you were talking about, you know, why were you looking for John Guerin? Maybe because he was more of a rock drummer. You wanted to put a little bit more of that in.
No. He wasn't right. No. He was more like Tony Williams.
In
what
way?
Tony Williams was?
Of course.
He played like Miles, and like in Miles' group, he played free. He played, it had nothing to do with rock. No, in fact, John was not really a real kosher rock player. He played more. He didn't play his time. He played loose.
No, don't get me wrong. I mean, I meant more rhythm and blues, funk kind of stuff. I mean, he wasn't really there. I mean, he ended up doing all record dates and did everything. But no, when I heard him, he reminded me of Tony Williams. In fact, he did play like Tony Williams. And Tony Williams, the album he did with Miles, you know, the two double set albums, Four and More and whatever the other one is. Mm-hmm.
You know, I think that's one of the greatest things ever done. And Tony Williams just was burning on it. He just played this incredible, style of playing, and that's the way John played, and that's what I liked about him, and which was not big band playing. You know, it was not the traditional big band. So that's what I meant by that.
When you first started your first big band? Who was your drummer?
I have no idea. Well, there's a picture of 1964, was it, at the beach over here that I put up. Some of my Facebook pictures. Frankie Capp was playing in my band that time. So I don't know if, of course, I don't think I have a band. I didn't have a band all the time. That's one gig we got.
Right.
Aside from that, I don't know. Probably Nick Ceroli played my band at times.
Nick Ceroli?
Yeah.
Oh, my God. Talk about his style.
Oh, Nick Ceroli was a great drummer. He was excellent. I mean, he could read a chart and look at you at the same time. I'm serious. I never saw anything like it. You put a new chart in front of him, and he'd be looking right at you and reading the chart perfect.
Did that scare you? Did you freak out when that happened?
Yeah,
I love it, Barone. You are. Yeah. It's. I mean, yeah. The magic is. Did you feel like your parents got? I know you're not. You said you're not very deep, but did you get the feeling that your folks were able to, even if they didn't necessarily grasp how insane you and your brother were, they appreciated what you guys did?
Oh yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's. Yeah, my mother and father appreciated what I did. Yeah, that's. You know, I do remember my father in Cleveland. You know, there really wasn't a music business in Cleveland. I mean, you know, he'd play the Palace Theater and do a few things like that. But it was a big polka town, you know, and there was lots of accordions. So I remember one time, I think my father was concerned that if I played trombone, I wasn't going to get any work. So he said, he kind of hinted around. He said, maybe you ought to play accordion also. I was totally insulted. I mean, I was so insulted today. Needless to say, I didn't do that. So
no, but they did.
There was no. They're very supportive. Both my parents, and I can think of other guys whose parents weren't. In fact, I can think of one that ended up committing suicide. I won't even mention his name, but his father just never wanted him to be a trumpet player, and he became a pretty famous, successful trumpet player. Successful in his reputation, and he also made money, and his father still never accepted him. And so I had none of that. I'm very grateful for that. So
Yeah, that's not any way to the kind of jealousy. Or did you know Frank Strazzeri?
Oh, sure. I worked with Frank a lot.
Yeah, Frank passed away too.
Yeah, I know that. Yeah. Well, I'm the one that told you about it.
You did?
It was a big mystery. It was on Facebook. I'm the guy that put the first post up.
That's
I put it on
right,
your
man. Thank God you did that, Barone.
I know it because, we were looking, somebody had mentioned it, and I said, well, where's the obituary? It was a big secret. So finally I found something put up by, what was it, the club?
Barone, I'm going to promote so much stuff off your site, man.
Yeah. Frank and I
forgot about that. Thank you for reminding me, man.
Oh, yeah, I did that. It's, and also of the Asian guy that works for Palo Alto.
Herb Wong.
Herb Wong, yeah. But it was Frank Strazzeri. In fact, my girlfriend over here found it because we were walking around for days saying, well, we heard that he died, but nobody knew anything. Everybody I asked, and then and finally we found that. It was put up by the club. What was the club? Jax. JAX is a club that he played for 30 years on and off. And they put up a nice thing about him, So I ended up putting that up and sending that out to people, so that's how that got started.
No, I think Herb Wong wrote the liner notes for that gig that you played with. It was called the Barone Brothers.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Did that? And he did that on tax. How many times did you take guys doing some tax refunds and making albums? Was that the only time? Was that the only time?
Well, that's the only time we did that. Which is, like I said, my brother had some money at the time because he paid for the date, and we did it. That's all it was. Again, and Strazzeri, Frank Strazzeri was in our group with Frank Rossellino and I. Frank and I had a group together.
You did.
Frank.
Can you talk about Frank Rossellino? Especially the idea of having two trombones in the band. I just love you to talk about that.
It's like when I was in Port Townsend a few years, I'm playing with Jake Zwiggum, and bass player turned, he had a great sense of humor. He says, what a novel idea, two trombones on one gig.
That's right.
But he was putting us on. No, it's, well, if you look at any of my stuff over there, you see this Trombones Unlimited thing. That's kind of a story. It's Bob Invention, the same guy I talked about before, who ended up with the Tijuana Brass. He went to school with a guy named Tommy Oliver, and at the last minute, they had done a couple of albums before for this Trombones Unlimited, it was called, which was just a studio group. They just put guys together. And the two guys that had done the previous two albums, they wanted a percentage of the thing and all this stuff, and they had a falling out with the producer. So at the last minute, they called Bob Edmondson, and he said, Bob, I'm hung up over here at Tommy Oliver. He said, I need to get somebody, and Bob said, we'll get Mike Barone. So we went down there, we played this whole album in one day. It was like, let's see, maybe 2 dates, 3 hours, and an hour overtime. And we did this first Trombones Unlimited album, which was live recordings and doing like Tijuana brass music.
Right.
All standards, jinga 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 jinga. So then after that, Bob couldn't do it, and Tommy wanted to continue it, and before that, Frank Rossellino asked me to have a group, which I was just stunned, absolutely stunned. I'll never forget the way he asked me, and we were in Donte's, and he says, how about you and I having a group? And it took me about 2 seconds to say yes.
Mm-hmm.
Here was my idol asking me to have a group together, of course. So we had been doing that, working at Donte's and also in Orange County, doing a few gigs. So I said, well, get Frank Rossellino, for this Trombones Unlimited. So we ended up doing the next 3 albums before the whole thing folded. It went into, they did something else.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, we have pictures of this and I ended up putting them out myself because I found out that, I ended up putting them on my label because the copyrights were available and I got them. So.
Did you ever wind up were there any actors from that time period that used to come and hang that they were actually maybe musicians themselves?
In Donte's?
Just in general, if you were playing with your band, like Burt Reynolds, and who were the major appreciators of music in the Hollywood area when it was thriving?
It was varied. Yeah, we'd get show business people in there, but there was just people in the business too. I mean, the Donte's thing was once in a lifetime. I'm very happy about that. In fact, my girlfriend here was there. We just got together a few years ago, and she was there also, and it was a place for you'd walk in there. For the most part, there was no cover charge. I remember for my band, they charged $1.50, and the owner thought, gee, nobody's going to pay $1.50 to see a band, you know. Truthfully, I'm serious. And but they had these. I remember had 2, maybe 3 musician service phones were put in there. So you go in there, and we all had a musician service for our work. You pick up the phone and you call in and say, do I have any work, anything happening?
Right, sure.
And they ended up having them there. So guys would stop off, have a drink, and whatever, or play there, and they'd always get their messages over there. You know, but there were some pretty famous people on it. I remember I used to talk to Tom Brokaw every night. Every single night, he'd be at the end of the bar, and I'd come in there, because he worked at NBC, which was fairly close to there. And this is before he was on the big network. He was an L.A. guy, and he was a jazz guy, and he liked talking about the jazz. And then all of a sudden, he was gone, and I looked, and he's on the network news. He's the big guy. See, that's the guy I used to hang out with Donte's with. Every night I'd go over there, because it was like 10 minutes from my house, so you had nothing to do. You go to Donte's,
Oh,
Can you believe that?
Oh, my God. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Barone. All right, listen, let's wrap part 1 up, but I got to go back to there's some things we didn't hit on, but thanks for taking the time, brother. We'll talk soon.
Okay, listen, if you do it again, can we do it in the morning or an earlier time?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
I'll be in touch, brother. Good to talk to you.
Okay.
All right.
Jake.
Have a good night,